Hi, this is Tisch Aitken, and it is Tuesday, October 8th, 2024. If you could please subscribe to my channel, I would really appreciate it. There is still a lot at play. We had the second of two eclipses because they always come in pairs. We had a solar eclipse occur on October 2nd at 10 degrees and 2 minutes of the cardinal air sign of Libra. And that's a new moon on steroids. It's like 3 new moons in one. And it's definitely a time of new beginnings and a big focus on partnerships and relationships. There were a lot of points in Libra. Mercury, which is the planet of communication and information, was at 11 degrees of Libra, just a degree off. Obviously, the sun and the moon are always conjunct during a new moon eclipse, but also the south node of karma, that which you've already mastered, that which you've already accomplished, that which you're meant to let go. Perhaps there are patterns that are not healthy that are being brought to light during this eclipse period. So although it definitely is a time of initiation and new beginnings, as every new moon or new moon eclipse is, there is definitely an ending inherent in that eclipse, in that the south node was within 4 degrees of the sun and the moon. So there was a release in that eclipse. And so now we are still working with both eclipses. And unfortunately, in the United States, we're preparing right now for Milton, for this big storm in Florida. Ever since the lunar eclipse in Pisces that occurred on February 17th, there was a lot of flooding in Central and Eastern Europe and parts of Asia. There's been a lot of flooding. And then, of course, in the United States, the hurricanes in Georgia and North Carolina and now and Florida and all this flooding. It's terrible. And eclipses often do bring in seismic activity. And we began in September. There was also an earthquake in LA. There may have been a second one after, but especially the flooding and the tornadoes. That's very the Pisces eclipse energy. And so we're still dealing with that, even though that eclipse is over. And we're really not out of eclipse season yet, in that they say eclipse season officially begins with the last lunation before the eclipses. So in this case, there was a new moon on September 2nd. Then there was the lunar eclipse in Pisces on September 17th. And then there was a new moon eclipse in Libra on October 2nd. And now the next full moon will be on October 17th in Aries. And that's going to be a stormy full moon. I won't talk about that yet, but that's going to be a grand cross, a lot of challenging energy, but it also officially marks the ending of eclipse season. So with eclipses, we see a lot happen in a short period of time. We can find out news we had no idea about that can change our lives forever. Or we can have something that's been building up for a while and finally just boils over and just ends, and we knew about it, we just didn't deal with it. And so eclipses wake us up, they shake us up, they want us to change, evolve, and mature. And the second eclipse is very centered on relationships and partnerships. And Black Moon Lilith, which represents our shadow self, our unconscious, that also was at 10 degrees of Libra on this new moon eclipse. And in the new moon eclipse, Venus, which ruled all of these points in Libra, and there were a lot of points, was in its detriment in the sign of Scorpio. Not an easy placement for Venus. It's facing wounds. There are trust issues. Often one has been hurt with Venus and Scorpio, or strong scorpionic energy. So they don't trust easily. But in this new moon eclipse, there was a grand trine in water that we're working with through the middle of October. So really that kind of separates on the full moon in Aries that occurs on October 17th. So we've got Venus in Scorpio, where it doesn't love to be, but it's making a beautiful aspect to Mars. Actually, this morning, the two made an exact trine. That's a lovely energy, very romantic and passionate, and that energy is looming. And then we have Saturn in Pisces. Saturn slowing down. It will station direct on November 15th at 12 degrees of Pisces. So Saturn also is working in harmony with Mars and Venus. And so that's helpful energy. And, you know, in the lunar eclipse, which was in Pisces, the water sign of water signs, the last water sign, the sign that rules the ocean, we had a grand trine in Earth during that time, hopefully giving us a little bit of grounding during a very emotional period. And this week, so we had, you know, Venus and Mars are in harmony. That's nice, but there's still a lot of heavy things going on. We have two outer planets stationing this week. So we have the helpful energy today, hopefully giving some creativity and positivity. Mercury, the planet of information and communication and perspective, is making a trine to Jupiter. Mercury is in Libra right now, so that's helpful energy as well. And that's optimistic. Mercury also opposes Chiron close to the world point, reinforcing the things we need to heal in our lives, but also giving perspective. Again, many of us have had light shown on many areas of our lives that need healing, that need tweaking and fixing, whatever it may be. And so this is helpful energy to facilitate that process. Now we have Jupiter retrograding at 3:05 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time at 21 degrees and 20 minutes of the mutable air sign of Gemini. When an outer planet stations, we feel it 5 days before and 5 days after, and it magnifies the energy of that planet. With Jupiter, Jupiter is the planet of expansion, abundance, benevolence, higher learning, generosity. It opens doors. It is a sense, again, of hope and having belief, having something to believe in, belief systems, philosophy, ideologies. But with this, it's interesting, the moon is in Sagittarius right now. It's going to go void Pacific time at 10:54 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time. Today is the, what is today? Today is the, how is this right? The 8th? So, oh yeah, because it retrogrades tomorrow. So it's going to, the moon will go void at 10:54 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time, and on the 9th at 2:54 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time, with the square to Neptune in Pisces. And so with that said, Jupiter rules the sign of Sagittarius. It is also retrograding in the sign in its detriment, because Gemini is the opposite sign of Gemini. We've got the moon in Sag going void right before this station, and Jupiter rules Sagittarius. And I think it's just intensifying and magnifying the idea that we feel so scattered, and we have for a while. I have for a while, that's for sure. Most of my life, but no, I felt scattered a lot of this summer. And on May 4th, Neptune got to the last degree of both Pisces and of the zodiac, and that's 29 degrees of Pisces. And so Neptune at the last degree, well, that is a sense of feeling lost. It can be a sense of feeling depressed or not knowing what direction to take. For creative people, it is such a creative planet, Neptune. It rules the subconscious mind, the imagination, dreams. Pisces is the most creative water sign, but because there's such a vulnerability and a sensitivity and just people feeling so depressed, it can feel impossible to fuel yourself to get it going. And then you've got Saturn, which is the planet of ambition, also transiting in the sign of Pisces, which has been going on since March 7th of last year. Saturn and Neptune both retrograded close to one another. Saturn retrograded on June 28th at 19 degrees of Pisces, and then Neptune retrograded on July 2nd at 29 degrees and 56 minutes of Pisces, almost 3 minutes away from the final degree and minute of the zodiac. And now we've got Jupiter, which rules Pisces in ancient astrology, retrograde, and it's going to be retrograde through February 5th. Then it will station direct at 11 degrees of Gemini. So we've got the planet of hope now retrograde. And we've got it in Gemini where, Gemini and Sag are both similar and they both love acquiring information. Sag is more about higher learning and the big vision, and often is associated more with universities, and whereas Gemini might be more, your early years of learning might be primary education, lower school, or grammar school, or what have you. But they both deal with education and learning, travel. Gemini might be more short distance trips and Sag might be more long distance, although I know somebody that has a loaded third house and she's done a lot more, she's done both, but a lot more long distance travel. And I know somebody with the ninth house is more short distance. So they both deal with education and learning and travel. But Sag can get all over the place because it is so expansive. Gemini is more your local environment. That's true. It's your local businesses. It's it's where you go get your nails done. It's where you buy your groceries, your local farmer's market, the place you go to dinner once a month with your friends or loved ones or whatever. It's stuff like that. It's where your kids go to school. It shapes your neighborhood. It shapes your local environment. I keep saying the word. So with that, I also feel that Jupiter in Gemini is really pronouncing how lost our local neighborhoods have gotten since the pandemic broke, really now almost 5 years ago. But in this, between the isolation that we had to do, between a lot of these things, the loss, the depression, many businesses either ending or reinventing, a lot of opportunities have emerged, but there's a lot of sadness and a lot of mental health issues. And that is certain, And so I think with this, it's, Jupiter and Gemini, how do you find new ways to upgrade your skills? Although I think what's going on for a lot of us is we feel like, oh God, Pluto is returning to Aquarius, which it is, because Pluto also stations, here I am getting scattered, Pluto stations direct on drum roll, on October 11th at 29 degrees and 38 minutes of the cardinal earth sign of Capricorn. That's a huge deal because Pluto will be in Capricorn only through November 19th, and that story is wrapped up and done. Neptune will be in Pisces on and off through through February of 26. That's another outer planet that's at late degrees of the sign and is a really prevalent and pertinent theme because, again, very much about reconnecting to our dreams, dealing with depression, dealing with addiction, dealing with mental health. But Pluto, which is the planet of power, big money, transformation, empowerment, psychology, Pluto is exiting the sign of Capricorn, where it initially ingressed into the sign of Capricorn on January 26th of 2008. Finally leaving that story. And again, when we have eclipses, whether it's in our own lives, if you have a major transit, pretend you've got Pluto conjunct your Venus right now. Maybe you're going through a stormy love affair. Maybe you're going through a major breakup. Maybe you just made a lot of money. You have Pluto-Venus themes. Maybe you're in deep psychology, deep counseling, whatever it might be. But on the world stage, Pluto is at the last degree of Capricorn, which means that's getting emphasized as well, and it's stationing. The energy of Pluto and Capricorn is just as much getting emphasized as Jupiter in Gemini. Jupiter in Gemini has us scattered, and I think what I was trying to say before is that where many of us are feeling lost, or how do I reinvent in this time, many artists and creative people and just people that are sensitive individuals that want to make a difference in this world, want to be happy in a tentative time, are feeling, how do I connect to faith and hope, and how do I learn new skills? I've got my own business. I was doing okay. I have somebody I know, his whole Google analytics got screwed up by somebody hired. That's awful because he was doing very well with it. I have trust in him that he's a very bright guy. He will fix the problem, but it's where, and that wasn't his fault. But even those of us that are trying to keep up, it's like you want to learn this or that, and you can get overwhelmed because there's so much to learn. And things are going to move so quickly with Pluto returning to Aquarius. And this is really returning to the digital age, which will go on through March 8th of 2043. But in the same vein, not losing our humanity, our integrity. AI is everywhere already. What's that going to be in another year or two? I mean, we have to think about keeping human in all of this in many different ways, in our own spirit and energy and what we exude. And that's where I think it's very important that both Saturn and Neptune are in Pisces, that this solar eclipse just occurred in Libra, which is about love and relationships, and finding, what you love, relationships you value, setting boundaries to those that don't adhere or respect your boundaries, but also instilling them with yourself and others if maybe you're not respecting others' boundaries, or maybe you're making it easy for others not to respect your boundaries. Maybe it's a message you're sending unconsciously. And that's where eclipses wake us up and bring a light on things. So maybe we say, oh, wow, I never looked at it that way. And I think that Pluto's stationing is a big deal because the whole world has changed a lot since 2008. The way we do business has changed remarkably. In 08 and 09, that's when we had the global financial crisis, the Bernie Madoff scandal, brokerage firms going out of business, the housing crisis. And now we're seeing these big people in power. And this whole thing with Sean Combs is another example of somebody who actually is having a big transit highlighted by the eclipses, because Pluto is exactly on his Mars in Capricorn. But more importantly, somebody who misused his money and power for decades. And this is connected to many other people that are very much in power, that have been also the victims in the story too. Neptune at the last degree of Pisces represents people that cannot speak for themselves, that cannot fight for themselves. It also represents drugs and alcohol and all of this misuse of all of these things. And so it's, another example. And the world situation, we don't want to get too dramatic, and I mean, well, we can't ignore it, obviously, but there's so many things. We don't want to get overwhelmed with Jupiter and Gemini. We want to be very aware of what's going on. What can we do to make a difference? So if it's places near us getting impacted, how can we donate our time, our resources, our money? In our relationships, how can we bring love to people that we care about, and also set boundaries with those that aren't respecting it? How can we get more inspired? Maybe setting little habits again. Maybe we've gotten off track with all this Pisces energy. It can get very easy to get off track. For me, I stopped walking. I was doing a lot of walking for the last few years. And now that the weather's nice where I am, it's beautiful fall, I'm starting at like 20 minutes a day, twice a day. That's a way of starting it, sticking to a pattern, a habit. And that's where the Pisces energy, for me, I've gotten very lost. I feel very tired. And that's Neptune. Neptune's also squaring my ascendant. My ascendant is a late degree of Sag, mutable energy. For those of you that have, angles or planets at the last degrees of mutable signs, and they are Gemini, Virgo, Sagittarius, and Pisces, you will feel Neptune either conjoining a point or squaring, and you could be having deception or confusion. You could be feeling very imaginative and creative, and I hope that's the case, but it can make you feel lost. if you have planets or angles at late degrees of the cardinal signs, Aries, Cancer, Libra, Capricorn, you are feeling Pluto in Capricorn, and I'd give it 27 to 29 degrees. You will feel the wrap up of this cycle. Really, I'd say 28, 29, but this is the wrap up. Pluto will never be in Capricorn in our lifetime again. And of course, it goes back into Aquarius. If you have early degrees of the fixed signs, Pluto is hitting that. It's about transformation. It's about entering a whole new era. And also still working with these eclipses. What do you want to let go of? The lunar eclipse in Pisces was highly emotional. It was conjunct Neptune, working more with your intuition, with your feelings. Mars is in Cancer on and off through April 18th. Not the best placement, but taking action, trusting your gut. We're going to have Mars retrograding on December 6th. I've been telling you that pretty frequently. Now we have Jupiter retrograding. It will be retrograde through February 4th. Pluto stations direct. It retrograded on May 1st, so now we've got that. We feel the intensity of Pluto 5 days before and 5 days after. So there could be dramatic exits, endings, stories getting uncovered. People experiencing Pluto cycles might have some big stories coming up. People in leadership, big people in power, big stories with that. And I want to wish everybody in Florida and the places that are preparing for the storm safety, because this is a big time and unfortunately this is scary. And I wish you all protection and safety. Good luck. Jupiter and Pluto stationing, one retrograde, one direct, but nonetheless emphasizing the characteristics. Jupiter exaggerating all the scattered energy, and a lot of local towns are getting hit, obviously, by things like storms. There's going to be a lot of chaos in that sense, a lot of communication, and could be things with, internet and ways of transmitting information. Pluto, death, regeneration, things getting uncovered. In your own life, Mars trine Venus today, the creativity. Pluto's stationing direct, leaving Capricorn. Well, what do you want to wrap up as we segue into the new age of Aquarius? What do you want to move into? What do you want to learn? Don't overwhelm yourself. Jupiter's in Gemini through June 9th of next year. Well, it's going to be retrograde through February 4th, but reinforcing skills that, socializing. I think that's something that a lot of us need to get better at again, because many of us don't go out as much, or, we've gotten a little more paranoid with other people, or whatever the case may be. And supporting local businesses, that's huge. Good luck, take care, and I'm still offering the Eclipse special through the end of October. Thank you.